Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Guys, if your life has ever been a dumpster fire, this episode is going to be just for you.
That's not what I expected. Are you saying there's hope for even the worst?
Yeah, totally.
Was I the worst?
What does that mean?
We have an inspiring guest whose life was a dumpster fire.
Call it a first world dumpster fire.
Yeah. That's really real.
That's true.
I'm excited about today's podcast. We've had Bryant on here quite a few times. If you've been following along, he's one of our really good friends. I
wouldn't say really.
What is he to you?
A pretty
Good friend? He's like my heterosexual life mate at this point.
I'll take that. I'll take it.
But he's the owner of the Adventure Challenge, and he's gone through an incredible journey of a really low within his process of not being sober to his sobriety journey that I think it's really inspiring what you've been on, and the way that you have not only processed out your life, but the way that you've allowed people to come into that journey with you has been something that's, has been really beautiful. So I'm excited to have a conversation about sobriety. Abby, do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited. You are really, really are a good friend. I know. It was a joke that was horrible. I can't make mean jokes. I try them and then I'm like, woo! But
Someone made a really mean joke at the office the other day and it was really funny. Sorry, ADHD, go ahead.
well, I was just thinking, one of the reasons I'm excited to have you on is almost every person believes if this one thing happens to me, then I'll be happy. If I finally get my career going, if I finally make money, if I finally get the person I want to date, like all of the things we're looking for to feel secure, to feel alive. And we all have this idea in our head of this thing that's just out of our reach. And so many of us, because of that, can spend our whole lives to keep reaching for it, to keep growing towards it, trying to get it. The amazing thing about your life is you actually got a lot of the things that you thought would make you happy. And that is a rare story. Maybe not. I mean, it's like rare-ish. And I think it's so hopeful and inspiring to reset people about what is really important. Whether you have all of your dreams or you are feeling like you want all of your dreams, hearing what really actually matters can always reset us to true north. So I think it's very inspiring for everybody.
That was a much better intro than mine.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, you really, you sold me on wanting to listen to him.
I'm like, I must have some good things to say. Didn't even think I was going to say anything good, but now I feel inspired, so thank you.
Now you have to.
Yeah.
So I thought we could maybe just start with that portion of it because, like I said, not everybody gets to get what they want.
Yeah.
So that maybe you could talk about how you got what you wanted and what it felt like.
And I think it'd be good just for those who don't know about you and this stuff, you might want to introduce what the Adventure Challenge is within the context of that.
Yeah, so the Adventure Challenge is scratch-off connection books. Scratch-off dating books, scratch-off books to do with your family. So if you don't know what a scratch-off connection book is, we'll use the dating book. It's a scratch-off dating book where basically it's a book filled with 50 different date ideas. You don't know what the date ideas are, though, because they're all covered with a lottery ticket scratch material. So you scratch it off, it tells you what to do. You go do it, you take a photo, and it becomes a scrapbook of all these fun adventures and memories.
Yeah.
That's the concept of the Adventure Challenge. I started making prototypes for it back in 2017, ended up finding a business partner in 2018, and then by 2019, we were easily the most profitable company in Redding, and then eventually probably one of the top in Northern California.
Well, and then on Inc. 5000.
Inc. 5000, and then it grew very, very quickly.
Yes.
It was not supposed to grow that fast, and my expectations weren't it to grow that fast.
Yeah.
I was wanting to be an actor. So I was hoping that I could make $2,000 a month to use that, so I didn't have to be a barista.
Right.
And I could pursue acting and go to auditions.
Yep.
And so this was my goal. And then it just blew up and took off. And then all of a sudden, I'm a CEO of a massive business and making more scratch-off books and commercials and things like that. And so
At 25 through 27, 28?
yes, 24 is when I started. I was a CEO for 3 years and then took 2 years off, and I'm actually back as a CEO now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I think it's insane how young you were as this is all going on. So
Yeah.
It's a lot to navigate. I think something people don't think about is success is a lot to navigate. And fast success is what everybody dreams of, but it's actually its own form of hardship.
Yeah, because it comes with a lot of regret, a lot of error, a lot of things that I can look back now at my investment strategies, the way I used money, and
it's hard for me to stop laughing because I watched you.
Oh my God!
And how you spend money.
I was raised with.
when you rolled up in your Lambo and you're like, I got a Lambo. I was like,
my
dude,
God.
I don't know. I needed it.
Lambo, private jet charters, staying at $5,000 a night, 4-season rooms.
Yep.
Just ridiculous. And I grew up with
Fun. There was some fun things.
It was totally fun. I mean, it wasn't fun in the moment because it was just trying to fill this gaping hole of love or acceptance. And so it was a short dopamine hit with each new thing I got, or a level of validation, but it never settled in me.
Right.
So I look back and I'm like, there were some cool moments on paper. I'm the happiest and most fulfilled I've ever been right now. And I'm not that rich. I'm not as rich as I was back when I was 25.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely one of those things. I grew up on Dave Ramsey. He teaches you how to get out of debt, how to stay out of debt, and how to conservatively invest money for retirement.
Right.
You grew up on dumpster diving to get food sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, we always had enough food growing up.
Yeah.
I want to make sure my parents get credit
Yes.
because they did a great job of providing. But I would dumpster dive at in this drugstore dumpster because they would throw bread away the day it expired, and it can last for another week.
Oh,
so I would pull
absolutely.
loaves out of the dumpster, we'd freeze it, and I'd dumpster dive for like some clothes I wanted or something.
Totally.
But it wasn't like if I didn't dumpster dive, we wouldn't have anything.
Totally.
Yeah.
But the contrast from
absolutely.
from that and then like growing, like kind of moving through this Dave Ramsey stuff, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm rolling up in a Lambo.
No, seriously, yeah. No, it went from like being $20,000 of credit card debt to within a year being a multimillionaire. So
That's a big swing.
massive. And so I didn't know anything about how to use the money. It was just like, I'm not in debt,
Totally.
so I can do whatever I want with this.
Right.
And I'm very intentional with my investments now, and even just educating myself more and more on money and building wealth. And I look back at those and I'm like, my God, like so stupid. I'd get $1 million check, from the company and just be like, oh, cool, I can go buy a Lambo for $300,000, or I can go take a private jet 10 times to a two hours worth of driving instead, just like flex. And it just led to a lot of unhappiness.
And what you were having happen is you basically had a lottery win, right? Like the concept is like that.
I mean,
person,
a lot of hard work and then a lottery win.
right? But what I'm saying is the idea of that person. It's like if one day I just hit it big, and it's like it hit big all of a sudden, and you're like anyone who's waiting for a lottery win, they're not prepared for that.
Totally.
They're not prepared for that mentally, emotionally, how they actually do exchanges. And,
Relationally.
yeah, and then you're not prepared for that in your 20s.
Yeah.
Not just the money, but then the responsibilities, the expectations and everything, right? So it was an intense experience.
Yeah.
What were some of the exciting parts of it, and then what were some of the disappointing parts of that season for you?
I was pretty sick when I started the company because I had some gut issues. I had leaky gut, didn't know what that was. No doctor could diagnose it because I wasn't seeing naturopaths, and there wasn't the same volume of health media out that there is today. And so I'd go to the doctor and be like, yeah, whenever I get a little bit of anxiety, I throw up. I can't go to restaurants because the smell of food makes me want to throw up. So, they'd prescribe me Xanax, or, which luckily I never took.
I literally just thought, how nice.
Yeah. No,
I was like, that's not the right thing to say.
Well, I didn't know what Xanax was back then.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, thank God. No,
that
I
would have been horrible.
ate that
They
like
should
candy.
not have. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they gave me Xanax, and I remember just like throwing it away.
Yeah.
Being like, I took it once, and then I took a nap, and then I was like, this makes me feel groggy.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't know what it was.
Me too.
Yeah, but no, doctors didn't know, and I couldn't sleep. My sleep was horrible ever since I was a kid. So when I turned 21, I'd go to a friend's house, we'd have some alcohol, and I just remember sleeping so well. Like I remember drinking and getting buzzed, and then laying in bed, and then just falling asleep and being like, "Wow, this takes care of sleep problems." No idea the health, crisis that can come with alcohol. When I was 21, I had a box wine dispenser on my nightstand, and I'd crawl into bed. Yeah, really classy. I mean, I was broke, so it was like $7 for 2 gallons of wine, and it would just on my nightstand, and I'd get into bed, have my little coffee mug, and I'd just pour it, drink it, and I'd probably do like 7 or 8 coffee mugs full of wine.
Wow.
And so I was drinking probably 2 bottles of wine at night to go to sleep, because I also didn't understand tolerance. So
Totally.
It was like, half a bottle used to do it. Now it's a bottle and a half, 2 bottles. And then it got to when I realized, you could do hard liquor, and that's less liquid.
Volume. Yep.
Then it was like half a bottle of Jack.
Whoa.
Just to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And so my gut issues got worse and worse and worse, and I did not link it to alcohol.
Right.
And so that's kind of the problems I already had. I was dealing with anxiety, I was dealing with sleep issues, health issues, and then all of a sudden a spotlight goes on you, and then you're even more anxious. You have way more pressure, way more anxiety. So the coping just turns up a notch, and and it ultimately led to just horrible depression, suicidal thoughts, being miserable, just being hungover every day during the day. I never felt happy until around 6 or 7, because I didn't drink during the day.
Right.
It was like after work, you have your first gin and tonic, and then you're like, I'm starting to feel good again. I can be social again. And then it was like, okay, now to connect to people,
I need it.
I need alcohol so I can like relax. And then I need even more to go to sleep. And so it just became this vicious feedback loop of being miserable during the day, great at night. And that was rough, managing a ton of employees and having access to whatever I wanted in the world, because you're just miserable. So in the time you're miserable, you're trying to use money to buy stuff to make you happy.
Yep.
And then at night you're drinking to forget. And then, or if you hit a marker to celebrate, you're drinking. And it was just this vicious cycle that I was just trapped in, and didn't know how to really get out.
It's interesting because knowing you in that season, I think looking back, you would say that when it was it was wildly successful, getting tons of notoriety, tons of attention, tons of finances. In that season, I think you were very unhappy.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's so different than what most people expect.
Yeah.
I think, and there's probably then pressure. Were you ever beating yourself up like I should be more happy or I should feel more fulfilled with this?
I couldn't tell people that I was miserable and unhappy, because like you have a bunch of people working for you. You're getting all this attention on social media, and people are like, "Oh, poor little rich kid."
Totally.
And I didn't want to be that guy, so it was like I pretend to be happy. Whoever I was dating at the time, they would know I'm unhappy because I would process with them. But I didn't tell everybody else, because then if you have to go and do a public speak or something,
totally.
You don't want to be like, I'm miserable, like,
No, I actually
sucks.
just meant like in your own head, did you feel like I should be happy? Did you feel like this should feel
what's
better?
wrong with me? I should be better.
Yeah, and then I started to. I had blame for why. I don't have any other rich friends who can understand what I'm going through.
Yeah,
that was stupid. And it makes you pull away from people where you're like, okay, like just because you have money and somebody doesn't, now you can't connect to them.
Right.
But, and also I grew up not getting a lot of attention, and so, but and I, reach out to somebody to be a mentor. Hey, I'm wondering if you'd be a mentor. No.
No.
I had friends, but I wasn't getting the same kind of attention.
Oh yeah.
And
Success turned the light on.
Yeah. So when you turn that switch, if you believe I'm unlovable, all of a sudden you're getting tons of attention. You're like, I'm still unlovable, but this is proving that this is giving them an excuse to love me.
Right.
So the only reason I'm lovable right now is because of the money or the success.
So now that actually feels worse because it feels
Yeah.
like if I let go of any of this, they'll leave.
Yeah.
And it also feels like it's not authentic love.
Yeah.
And then you feel like you're performing for love.
Yeah.
So that's a very lonely idea, is that you're loved for something you did or achieved.
And I would, at that time, I'm like, I would rather take cheap attention than no attention.
Totally.
But the cheap attention felt horrible because you'd go to bed at night and you'd feel like, I'm not actually receiving love.
Right.
And so that was really painful in that process. So, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
I was thinking about, I was in my mid to late 30s when you were going through some of that process, and we were talking. I remember telling you, like, Bryant, like, what you're going through would cripple me. Like, I couldn't handle the pressure of all of a sudden 100 or more people all looking at me being like, no, you have to solve all these problems. Like, all of a sudden, especially without any runway. So, like, besides the mental and emotional things that you were going through, like, just the idea of adding this weight on your shoulders would be so crippling for anyone. So it makes so much sense.
And there's a lot of dynamics. You had lots of people who got jealous. You had lots of people who now were in ego battles with you. You had lots of people that were rooting for you to fail because that's what people do when somebody breaks out, which is really sad.
Yeah.
And now all of your relationships change because the power dynamics have changed with finances. There's no way that when it happens all of a sudden, it doesn't impact, at least for a little while.
Yeah.
And so it's like having to reorient to a whole new world instantly without a roadmap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that led to you. So in that season, you were an alcoholic, you describe, or?
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
an addict, or?
Some people wouldn't see it as an alcoholic, but I think any unhealthy level with alcohol can be described as an alcoholic. When I went to rehab, I got to see some real alcoholics and get to experience what that was like. And I think it was more of a wake up call because, when I went to rehab, it was a bougie rehab. It wasn't like I was locked in a cage or anything, but, I show up and the first night I had bad sleep because I didn't drink to go to sleep. So I got maybe a couple hours of sleep, and I woke up and I got to get breakfast, and the nurse comes in and she's like, "Do you need medication?" I'm like, "For what?" And she's like, "Well, your withdrawal symptoms." And I was like, "Withdrawal symptoms? What are you talking about?" And they were used to having people come in who are constantly on the clock drinking.
Yeah.
And they have to monitor you because you could die if your body is used to nonstop alcohol. I just use it for sleep. So I was like, oh no, like, I'm not throwing up or anything. I'm just a little sleep deprived right now, I'm like, oh. And so, but then, like, seeing people, like, you'd hear people like violently vomiting in the middle of the night, or they come into rehab and they're super happy and playful. And I didn't realize, they're drunk still.
Right.
They chugged, they did a fifth before coming through the gate as their last hurrah.
100%.
And then now they're throwing up violently, shaking, fever. I was like, oh shit. Like, I'm glad I dodged that, but I'm not that far away from that. Like, if this progresses, it could get to that point. Yeah. And so, if I go to AA meetings, I think speaking life over yourself is important. So I don't say my name is Brian, I'm an alcoholic. My name is Bryant, and I struggle with alcohol. Yeah. And, it's semantics, whatever, but it's.
What was some of the low points that got you to where you're like, I think I need to do rehab?
I tried quitting multiple times, and I could go 30 days without drinking, but then it was like my health is still shit. My sleep is still shit. My life doesn't feel any better. Life hasn't dramatically improved with not drinking for 30 days. So whatever, I'm going to drink. And so, but what I did start to notice were patterns. And all of the bad stuff that was happening in my life was related to alcohol. So, you know, if you like, whether it was relationship with women, or it was, you know, saying something stupid at a party, or, you know, making a promise when you're really drunk and getting people excited and then you don't deliver. So, and then, you know, not being able to show up in the mornings really well and lead well, not being able to do the work that I needed to do to set Adventure Challenge up for more success. And so those are some things that were like, man, if alcohol wasn't a factor, like all of these things could be different. And then there were some opportunities that cost our company a lot of money where, you know, I remember like QVC wanted to have me on to do a special. This is
rough. I remember this.
Yeah, you know, and so I went through like a month of training they send you through where you do practice pitches. And for those of you who don't know, QVC is like a shopping channel. Millennials might know what it is, but Gen Zers probably don't. And where it's like a live shopping channel where you're live talking about your product with a host. And, you know, Lori Granger from Shark Tank, she's like the queen of QVC. And, you know, so I did all this training for it. And then they were like, hey, your slot's at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, shit, like 8 o'clock. I am still so hungover by 8 o'clock. I can't do 8 o'clock. And if I don't drink, I'm not sleeping. And if I don't sleep, I'm going to throw up. And I'm going on live television. And so it was so bad. I was like, okay, I'm not drinking anything. I'm just going to go to sleep. So I took some Benadryl, tried to sleep, couldn't, decided maybe I'll take a gummy to help go to sleep, you know, THC gummy. Spiraled into a vicious panic attack that didn't end until 7 o'clock. And that's when the whole camera crew showed up at my house. And I'm like in my bedroom, I lock the door, call Giselle, my assistant, and I'm like, tell them I can't make it. And this was months of planning.
Yes.
The team
months of preparation
worked really hard to get me on the show, to pitch this product, to make, you know, $300,000, $500,000.
Sure.
And I just had to bail. And it was like, I tried so hard to just not drink to go to sleep. And that's when I remember seeing the disappointment from some of the leaders on my team. And just be like, yeah, well, all right, cool. You know, he called in sick last minute. And I was just like, I'm done. I can't. I got to figure out a way to get rid of this, to fix my sleep. And I got to get out of Reading for a while. Yeah. I got to get out of the pressure of the employees and, you know, revenue and the business. And I just need to like find a way to sleep without drinking alcohol.
Totally.
So then I checked into a rehab in Maui and went there. And then that like kind of catalyzed my journey to sobriety, which I think when I was 27, I think the girl I was dating at the time, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to 30. Like, if this keeps continuing, like, I don't know if I can not kill myself.
Yeah.
Because this just sucks.
Totally.
And, you know, I think deep down, I actually believe, like, I don't know if I'll make it to 30. So I'm 31 now, and I'm still alive.
Yeah, you did it.
Plot
Praise
twist.
God. Yeah.
When you tell the story, this is just a side note about QVC and stuff like that. Do you find yourself connected to compassion over like what you're experiencing in that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel regret from it.
Sure.
Yeah, and I don't feel like nobody was there to really walk me through what was happening necessarily, or even like even with you guys never struggled with alcohol or anything. And so even my 30 days, like I've gone 30 days without alcohol and my body is still going to crap. Like, so it can't just be the alcohol. It has to be all these other things. And it wasn't until years later till I realized, no, alcohol actually, you kind of need it out of your system for like 4 months, 5 months before you start to really notice any benefits, which sucks because I have a lot of friends who are like, oh, I'm doing, you know, dry January.
Totally.
And you're like, yeah, you're just going to realize how much you love alcohol. Like, you're just going to realize how amazing it is because for 30 days, you're going to be suppressed from connecting to your community, doing fun things you like, getting, you know, what you call good sleep, even though it's horrible REM sleep, and feeling good and relieving stress after a day of work.
Right.
So you're going to go into February probably even more addicted to alcohol than if you wouldn't have taken that 30-day break.
Absolutely.
And so it's like you have to really understand what alcohol is doing at the root and decide to go on that journey before you just jump in like a 30-day like challenge or something.
Well,
so
the reason I said that is as you were retelling the story, I could feel this immense wave of compassion inside of me because I remember the phone calls that we were having during that time. And I was just like, man, empathetically being inside of your shoes, the panic, the worry, all of that stuff, like I can imagine what it'd be like. And I think that the reason I'm addressing that is a lot of people, when they think about some of their low points in life, they don't actually visit it with compassion. They're like, oh, what the F was wrong with me? You know, I'm stupid for that. I can't believe I did that. And like stories like this, I'm just like, wow, it makes sense that you could get there, why you would get there, and how that would be so difficult. You know, I was thinking about the people, when you talked about other leaders, like having to face other people that you failed. And I know that a lot of people that have battled sobriety and just all kinds of messiness in their life, having to face people that we've hurt or we've failed is a really difficult one to overcome inside of ourselves. And so I think my hope is that people, when they hear a story like that, they would think about their own with kindness, you know, their own dark moments with kindness. Because that's one of multiple that were really hard for you, right?
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think having you guys as friends helped me navigate a lot of that, because I didn't develop a lot of self-hatred or a lot of regret or what an idiot. It was like, yeah, that was hard. Yeah. Like, I'm just grateful I made it out, and I had people around me who could help me through that.
Yeah.
You know, I know I had hours and hours of phone calls with you during my sobriety in San Diego, you know, and like just the hell that I was going through. And then on top of that, there was a breakup in the middle of that as well, which was also hell going through that. And on the other side of it, I can look back and tap into a lot of compassion. And be like, yeah, that was just rough. That sucked. Like, you know, even the money stuff. I don't look back and kick myself in the ass, because I'm like, dude, like, you give $5 million to any child who's been broke his whole life, and you know and it felt like he hasn't had the affirmation and love and attention that he wanted, and so you're gonna use that money to try to get attention, affirmation, and connection to fill the hole, to all those things. So, I look back and I'm like, I just don't know if I would change anything.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I grew so much from that.
100%.
And even the amount of people I've been able to sit with an empathetic lens and help them walk through it, instead of being like, oh, I can imagine that's hard, being like, oh no, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. And but there's light on the end of the tunnel. And here are some ways and things you could do to actually help expedite that, and to keep yourself sane in the midst of that hard stuff that you're about to face.
It's funny because I laughed so hard when we started this podcast about the way you spent your money, but I don't think, like, I'm like, you had to do that. It had to be the process. That's how you learn. And it's fun that you got to learn that way. Like, those are some fun lessons. Yeah. And you probably wouldn't care as deeply about learning about investments now if you hadn't had that season. Yeah. Like, that season provoked and inspired you to want to grow and become better with money. And I think a lot of us, when we're here, we want to categorize events and what we've done as good or bad, instead of seeing that everything in our life is meant to be inspiration for who we become. Yeah. Whether it was, I spent money and now I think I could have done that differently, or I could have taken care of my body differently. The idea of living without regrets is so powerful. And I think that it's because you take everything and you learn and grow from it. So how could you regret? Because you've become who you are from it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But that, and that goes back to the idea that you purposely have done something to learn and grow from it, to participate in self-exploration and reflection inside of it. And I think a lot of people, they live in regret because they don't know how to or want to do the work of self-reflection for the growth journey. So they're just still avoiding it. They're just like, okay, I did that. I don't want to look at it anymore. I don't want to face any part of this. So they feel that sense of judgment that they hold on to. But immediately when they start to engage that portion of their heart and say, no, there is redemption to be extracted out of the messiest parts of my story. I want to use it to be a catalyst for my future, for me to become the best version of myself, which is something that you did. Well, then it's all worth it. There's value in all of it.
And honestly, a lot of my strengths are actually from the biggest wounds I had, or the biggest messes I made, or the biggest mistakes. A lot of times it's those things that really stick out in your brain, and you're like, I have to fight so hard to break this cycle or get out of this so that I never feel this pain again. And that normally is the thing that drives you towards greatness in an area. Most of my strengths are because of my weaknesses.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself, I don't know how to put this, going on an apology tour or a cleanup process with people at all inside of that?
Yeah, I mean, part of the 12 steps in sobriety is making amends and, asking forgiveness for people you did wrong to. I probably didn't take it to the extent that a lot of people in the STEP program do, but lots of conversations with people who I had hurt or I had made promise to that I couldn't deliver. Most of it was making promises that I couldn't deliver.
What was it like for you to do that?
I mean, it felt healing.
Yeah.
It felt good. There's obviously pain thinking that there's people that got really excited about opportunities that I would talk about or get really into, but then not have the capacity to make my, come good on my end for. So that sucked. And I think there's people who we used to have on our team who they were pretty just bitter in life as a whole. And so I gave them a good villain to kind of like point blame to.
Totally.
And some of them, it's like I was able to some of them go and kind of be like, hey, this is kind of what I was going through, and apologize. And then you'll still hear rumors of them talking poorly about you or saying certain things, and you're like, yeah, well, my apology isn't for them to let go of all their bitterness. It's for me to do my part and to clean up the mess the best I can. And I think repenting or apologizing to people solidify that this was a mistake that I'm humbling myself to acknowledge. And I feel like through that humility, it's a great reminder to not get stuck in it again.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing I learned, if I could attach everything I learned in this season, it was probably humility. Was learning that. Because I think, from a practical example, I made a shit ton of money. So I have millions of dollars in my bank account. I'd have people come to me and say, oh, I'm going to teach you how to invest this and do good with this money. I know these people don't have more than 20 grand in their bank account.
Totally.
So what I'm looking at them through a lens of, how do you have something to teach me when I have more than you?
Absolutely.
But the reality is, just because I have more of something than somebody else doesn't mean I have the wisdom to steward it better than somebody else. And so, but I didn't look at it through that lens.
Yeah.
And what I didn't see is the person who had $20,000 in their bank account, they were saving
doing
$100 every single week and managing it so well to where if they would have been given the money I had, they would have turned that 5 into 50 million.
Totally.
Right? But I was looking at it through a very shallow perspective of, I'm better with money than you because I have more.
Yeah.
And I see this through people with influence over people.
Yes.
Who they're like, I have this much influence. How much do you have? Why would I take wisdom for you?
Yep.
And so if I could go back in time, even with like business ideas, or you'd get young entrepreneurs who would come and be like, have you ever thought about doing this with your business? And without even thinking about what they said, my brain would turn off and be like, why would I listen to you? You don't have a successful company.
Totally.
And it's the most arrogant way to live. And I see this all the time. And people in the fitness industry, you have a jack guy with a six pack.
Totally.
And then you say something like, oh, well, have you ever tried this? And they immediately discredit what you say because I don't have a six pack. They have a six pack.
Yes.
Why would I listen to you? I'm way better looking than you.
Totally.
And it's like, that will cripple your growth. And in Proverbs it talks about God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. This lesson is one of my favorite lessons that I have learned early on in marriage, where, now I'll put marriage aside for a second. Now when somebody comes to me with an idea and they say, have you ever thought about doing this with your business? Instead of turning that off and being like, oh, I have more experience than you, why would I listen to you? It's like, sometimes God is speaking through the ignorant to give you a solution that you need. And I posted this on Instagram the other day. I was like, sometimes the key to accessing wisdom is humility, and it's through the mouth of the ignorant.
Totally.
And I didn't know that. And so now there's a lot of people who, maybe they run a coffee shop, maybe they sell online t-shirts, or they do this, and they're like, have you ever thought about doing this? And not saying all their ideas are from God, wisdom, but for you to lose,
but you're being open to
you're open to it. And so even now being married, where I'll vent a business problem or something with my wife, and she goes, well, have you ever thought about doing? My brain would go offline.
Totally.
Like, why would she know how to fix this? I'm sitting with business people 24/7 trying to fix this, and then I would get triggered and be like, it's not that simple. It's not that easy. It's not that. And I feel like God corrected me really fast on that, because he's like, like I brought this beautiful human being to your life who is very intelligent, that you love and you've committed your entire life to. And you don't think that any of the wisdom in her soul could be applicable to the journey that you're going on. And it was like,
Beautiful.
oh, I have to actually trusting God for wisdom is not that he's going to give you a direct answer, but he's going to use people where you have to access the fruits of the Spirit in order to receive that bit of wisdom. And so even just the other day, my wife said, you know, I'm talking about this new business I want to make in Reading. And I said, oh, I might do it this way because of X, Y, Z. And she goes, I don't know about that. Maybe, and I could feel the pride come up. She goes, maybe you should do X, Y, Z. And I literally in my head was like, God, thank you for this spouse, for this human being that you brought into my life. She's right.
Wow.
She's 100% right. And I literally made myself say, babe, you're 100% right. Yeah, that's a good idea. Shit, yeah, that's a good idea.
Come on.
Yep, okay.
And I bet that was great for your marriage.
Yeah, it probably was, yeah.
I'm like putting myself in her shoes and I'm like, I bet that felt really good.
And it's so hard because even, especially as a man, you want to be all knowing and you want to be smart, intelligent, and like, you know, somebody who has no experience with business giving you a business is like, oh no, you're probably right. You're probably. And I went to my buddy who I'm doing the business with, and I said, bro, my wife actually said this thing the other day, and I think she's right. And he goes, bro, my wife said the exact same thing. Because we were both like, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Our wives said, this isn't a good idea. And he humbled himself and was like, you're right. I humbled myself and was like, you're right. That could have saved the business.
Totally.
And it's like, it's so to me, humility is one of those things where it's like, if you can't lower yourself and be like, I do not know everything just because of what I have achieved. I am not more intelligent just because this idea worked. And I'm not better with stewarding these things just because I have more of these things than you.
Yeah.
Then like, it's almost like the floodgates of creativity, innovation, ideas, and wisdom start flooding to you, but it's at the cost of you letting go of your ego.
Yeah.
And that's especially as I'd say as men, that's really hard to do. But I'm really grateful for that aspect in this journey of learning even, you know, more and more humility.
That's the one thing that I love about your sobriety journey is the beginning with having to face yourself, the thing that we don't want to do, but the thing that we don't want to do, the thing of facing ourselves is the road to all of the great, beautiful things unfolding in our lives, because it is that road of humility. And I love that part of the journey of 12-step is that ownership and looking yourself eye to eye and being like, this is where I've dropped the ball. This is where I've failed people. How do I now go own this? Because it opens the door to a relationship with wisdom and opportunities. And so I think that's beautiful.
And you've done a great job of, because I think oftentimes people with humility go into like self-criticism. And that's not actually what humility is. You didn't go into, I can't trust myself. I can't trust my voice. I only make mistakes and I fail at things. Like you didn't identify yourself with the pain. You just opened yourself up to see people more as equals and see your need for community. And for people and for it not being hierarchy between you and others. And I think that's important because I think a lot of people, they go through hard circumstances that they have regrets in, and their form of humility is, now I just hate myself for that season. Now I just beat myself up all the time for that season. And it's beautiful because that's not what you've done. And I think that's why you've been able to come out of that season so well, is because as long as you're beating yourself up for what you've done in the past, you'll keep doing cycles to avoid your own shame. And a lot of times in addiction, when people hate themselves for what they've done, then they keep looping in addiction because the shame cycle gets them.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. Okay, so I know that a couple times you felt a very clear urging that you needed to be sober, and then great things in your life opened up as you took those steps. Do you want to share any of those stories? I know of two. I guess I could just
give me an example so I can know what track you're going down.
One was about like dating and a wife and alcohol in that season.
Yeah, I mean, so when I decided to really go sober. So I went to rehab, was sober for like 3 months, and then started getting back into more drinking. A lot of it had to do with a relationship I was in, and I was pretty disassociated from my heart and emotions, and so I used that to like cover that up. But when I really made the decision, and I was like, I was in Italy, and I was just kind of starting to get dark again. It started to feel like this dark heaviness. And I feel like I had this encounter with God where he's like, you're these things you're doing, or these things that I'm encouraging you not to do, are not because I'm trying to withhold fun from you. And it's not because I'm trying to see if you have the discipline and wisdom to be a good man. It's because I would rather you choose things that bring you life than that bring you death. And he's like, I want you to write a list of all of the things that bring you death and the evidence that you've seen that's brought you death. And so obviously drinking's on that list and a list of other stuff. And he's like, before you make a decision, I want you to ask, is this going to bring life or bring death? And I don't like thinking in black and white.
Yeah.
I like to understand that there's nuance to everything. So I'm not saying anytime you have a drink, you're choosing death.
Sure.
But what I will say is living in a black and white season for a little bit and deciding, is this decision going to lead me closer to life, or is it going to take me closer to death? And when I started to think that way, it was like my life got 100% better, because it was like, instead of just scrolling on Bumble, meeting up with a girl, having a one-night stand.
Yeah.
Which, not judging anyone if they do
Sure.
that. But I was able to look at myself and say, this isn't bringing me life, and it's not bringing me any closer to the goals that I have of building family.
Right.
And it's actually killing a part of my soul, because I wasn't designed to be doing these things with people that I'm not committed to.
Right.
Same with drinking. If I'm going to drink, is it going to bring me life, or is it going to bring me death? Well, in this moment, it's definitely not going to bring me life. And it started to... Basically, it was kind of weird, because it was like that every day that I chose life, I saw life attracted to me.
Yeah.
And so I found the best community I've ever had in my life when I started making choices to pursue life and not death.
Yes.
Ended up meeting my wife that way. And so one of the decisions I made was like, well, if I'm not going to drink, I need to find out what I can do for fun.
Yeah.
And so what's really interesting about alcohol is a lot of us don't actually know what makes us come alive, because when you're intoxicated, you do feel alive with what you're doing.
Yeah.
You go to a wedding and it was the best wedding you've ever been to, because you were just smashed and dancing and everyone was having fun and you hooked up with the bridesmaid or whatever. Or you go to a baseball game and you're always drinking and you're like, I love baseball games. But maybe you're associating baseball game with a good feeling because you're drinking and you're elevating your dopamine. Or maybe you're okay with game nights because you're drinking during the game nights. And so when you're sober, all of a sudden, everything gets really, really, really boring, because you're not increasing your dopamine in order to participate.
Right.
And you also start to get bored with people who are in your life. You start to hang out with people and they're drinking and you're like, this isn't really intelligent conversation. This isn't life-giving dialogue. We're not that smart with these ideas that I thought we were. And you're not that fun to be around. And then you're like, I can't connect without alcohol. It's like, no, you can't connect with these people without alcohol, because you probably shouldn't actually be connecting with them, because your spirit's not even aligned with what their spirit's aligned to.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say the 30-day journey of not drinking is more harmful sometimes than good, because if you're not aware of what authentically makes you come alive, the people who are in your world that you genuinely love and want to do life with, and they speak life back into you, then you're just going to assume that you're no longer funny, nobody gets you, you're not having fun with your community, nothing is fun anymore. And it's like, no, but when you choose sobriety, you start doing things that you would have never done, because now you're trying to have fun and you don't have the dopamine hit.
Yeah.
So that's when like pickleball and surfing and, going on weird adventures and hanging out with people where you're like, I know we're going to have fun because you're hilarious and you're encouraging and I can talk about my problems and you're going to be empathetic and we're going to have a great connection. Then it gets really fun because then you're like, oh, I don't even need alcohol to really feel love and connection. I don't need alcohol to have fun. And really alcohol is just going to make me not be as connected the next day. So I'm not going to be able to connect with my authentic community. I'm not going to be able to enjoy getting up at, sunrise to surf. I'm not going to have the energy to play pickleball. And you start to realize when you go sober what you really like to do and who you really like to be around. And when you are aligned with that, life gets really fun and exciting. And that's what makes it like, I'm not ever tempted to drink. And if it is, it's because I'm at a dinner party and they're passing some wine and I want it to go good with a steak. And you're like,
Right.
oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
But guess what? I don't want to numb myself so I can't authentically connect with these people.
Right.
And I've had to give myself grace to not do certain things because I know that I haven't found a way to have fun doing that sober yet.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of weddings where it's like, I haven't found a way to have fun during weddings unless I'm shit-faced. So unless I really like
Says
you.
a lot of men out there. I think Justin's like, I thought that too. I never even knew alcohol could make a wedding better.
Oh, it can. Yeah. But it's, yeah.
It
yeah.
can.
So I've had to kind of go on that journey. Is that the question you're asking about the good stuff coming in your life, or did I go
That's
on a
great.
different tangent?
No, that's a great tangent. So I thought that was one that I thought was good. And then the other moment that I remember was when you decided to go sober on another level when you came to Reading, and then a bunch of things opening up in your life then. So I thought,
sobriety phase 1 was a lot of trying to fall asleep, and which is an element of control, like trying to force my body to do something that I needed to do, which I didn't fully understand that part. So we're having some problems with the Adventure Challenge, and I had to come back. I had to leave San Diego and come back to Reading to take over as CEO. I don't like being CEO. I don't like those hours. I don't like the pressure, the work. I'm not a huge fan of that. On top of that, I was newlywed.
yeah.
So I had just gotten married. We had to leave all of our friends and community to go do a job that I really didn't want to do. And not only that, but I was cashing out my life savings to make payroll and to keep everything afloat.
Yes.
So finances were really shaky.
Yep.
The business was shaky. My marriage just felt shaky because we
Totally.
were just scrambling around doing everything.
Oh, you went through so much life stress all at once.
Yeah. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to get it back on Adderall. And I'm going to get on Adderall because I can't be a good husband, a good leader, a good business guy. I can't do all of these things very well, and I can't make myself be motivated to do all this work. And so I started taking Adderall again. The Adderall wears off by the time I get off of work, and then I'm drained. And so I'd go home and I would be a shitty partner because I just want to lay in bed or mope around. And it's a pretty big dopamine deplete. So I'm like, Kratom elevates your dopamine. And so I started taking Kratom after Adderall. So
To
it was
save
like,
your marriage.
to save my marriage.
Yeah.
It was like, I can't be energetic and romantic and do all these things that my wife wants to do. So I'm going to take this drug for work. I'm going to take this drug for my marriage. And it worked kind of for a little bit. And then it was just miserable.
Totally.
And it was like I was trying so much to control every part of my body and the way I responded to everything that there was no more trust or faith.
Totally.
It wasn't like, God, I actually trust that you brought these things into my life, so I'm going to give the best capacity I have, and where I fall short, you're going to have to cover it up.
Yeah.
And so I essentially had to go on the journey of basically telling my wife, like, hey, last 6 months, I've been on Kratom and Adderall, to be a better husband and to try to be a better boss. And, everything's crap still. So I'm just like, I'm trying to, I can't please, I can't keep trying to control myself to please everybody.
Totally.
And so
I love this because this is I think a lot of us do bad habits for good reasons.
yeah,
Like you're like, I need to be a good boss. I need to be as focused as I can. And I need to be a good husband.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to compromise these things in order to try to make that work. But then it didn't. It never pays off.
it didn't. And as soon as I quit the Adderall and Kratom, my life got 100% better. Our marriage got 10 times better than it ever was. Work got 10 times better than ever was. And it started like we had these breakthroughs in work. We had these breakthroughs in our marriage. Like everything started to get good. And I was, I was operating at a way lower capacity, but the frequency was trust and surrender.
Yes.
And it was like, I'm not going to control this. And everything that I can't rise up to, I'm just going to have to trust God that he's going to cover it.
Yeah.
And not to say that there's not hard days where I'm like, man, I wish I could have a dopamine lift right now. But it's being like, I'm not, and I'm okay with being miserable. And I'm going to just like surrender this part to God. And so that's been, that was huge. But it was sad to like have a relapse like that, to where it was like, and luckily I never got back into drinking.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that was like, man, I wish I didn't have to experience that. But now that I did experience it, it feels like it's education for the future now.
100%. You're like, now I can't do that.
What I don't know if you kind of said this earlier, but what are the things about life that you had to accept in order to let go of sobriety?
Let go of sobriety?
Or engage sobriety,
Yeah.
sorry. What are the things in life that you had to accept in order to engage sobriety? So I think that like when we're not sober, there are things that we're avoiding inside of life, and it is an aspect of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like what are the things that you embraced about the realities of life?
Like in my marriage or in the business?
Well, any area, because one of the things that you had said, I think you talked about pain, and I think that that's something that I've seen you embrace more of is the reality of pain and accepting that life has an aspect of pain inside of it, and it's just part of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if there were any other things that you'd noticed.
Well, I mean, yeah, the more I avoided pain, the worse it got, right?
Yeah.
And that, I'm sure you guys
So
talk about that
true.
all the time on your podcast. And yeah, just because you don't feel it doesn't mean it's not there, just waiting to turn into a little monster to wreck your life.
Yeah.
and realizing that life cannot get really good unless you let it get really bad at times.
Yeah.
And we spend so much time trying to avoid pain when pain is actually some of the secret sauce that makes
Yes.
you grateful for the good stuff. And so I think that's a big one of understanding in those moments where I'm feeling, maybe a little depressed or feeling a little low or feeling disconnected, of being like, oh, this is actually the price. Feeling disconnected is making me more grateful for the connection that I get to have versus forcing myself to feel connected with every person I'm around.
Yeah.
And also letting the light go off of like, there's pain here signals something that, oh, there's something that I can work on to get better at.
Right.
And maybe I can do a deep dive to figure out what that is. Kind of like, people who take pain pills for joint pain.
Yeah.
And all it does is just turns off the signal, letting you know it's there.
Yeah.
Versus you might just need to rehab it. You might need to do some squats, elevated squats and use, exercise bands to rehab it. And it's going to suck for a couple months, but then you're not going to have the knee pain.
Right.
Versus just turning off the signal that says you have it.
good.
And so that's been a part of it. That's like, I had to surrender not being the perfect boss.
That's good.
I had to let go of the idea that I can make everybody happy if I just, pump myself up with enough, amphetamines to do everything that I think is supposed to happen. And it's like, I didn't get this business because I was such a genius and such a crazy hard worker. It's
Yeah.
like I trusted God and I worked my ass off, but I
Yeah.
worked my ass off, and then when I couldn't, I didn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't impress my wife because I was this perfect, infallible human being.
Totally.
And so letting go of needing to be the perfect spouse or the perfect boss, or just, allowed me to also show up as more human, and maybe even get some more empathy from the other leaders in the business who
Yeah.
can see me struggling and being like, I don't know what to do. And it goes back to the humility of being able to sit in a finance meeting with someone and be like, dude, this is going over my head. Can you break it down for me? Because this is giving me a headache. I want to run away right now because I feel like I'm in a straitjacket looking at this thing. And it's like humility. I'm not perfect. Can you help me?
Yes.
Like, hey, babe, I feel so sad right now.
Yeah.
Can you help me?
Yeah.
And it's just like letting people love you better, see that have areas of weakness, and then they get to show up and actually show their strength and be in your life. And so it's more fulfilling that way, having that community around you. So
Yeah.
does that answer your question?
That hit all. That hit all. But
good.
I love that. I feel even embracing imperfection. I think that that's something that we as human beings are terrified to do. We're terrified to embrace that we're imperfect because we assign meaning to that. Like
Yeah.
my imperfections, this is a reflection of who I am.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that shame battle. But when you embrace the imperfection, you don't have to constantly be trying to get away from yourself.
Yeah.
And the circumstances that provoke shame, once you're facing the shame, embracing the imperfection, all of a sudden you're like, I can be present with this.
Yeah.
I don't need to check out. I don't need to go.
Yeah. Can I add something to that
Yeah.
too? So I've talked about this a lot, but the idea of assigning good or bad value to things plays a big role in sobriety, because even when you're like, and I hope this doesn't sound hyper spiritual for people listening, but whatever, I'm a Christian and I believe in this stuff. So I think that if you're truly living a surrendered lifestyle where you ultimately trust God with the result. Doesn't give you permission to be lazy, but it gives you permission to show up the best you can and then say, God, I trust you with the result. And if I don't get the result I want, it doesn't mean that I failed. It means that you probably have something better for me. And I can't tell you the amount of times where I've let go of, if I took an Adderall, I could show up and finish this project.
Yep.
But what you don't see is if you finish that project, it's going to lead you down a tangent that you probably shouldn't have gone on, versus if you sit in the room with ADHD spiraling everywhere and the Lord actually knows how your brain works. And he's like, hey, he's probably going to be bored. And through that boredom, he's going to get another idea. And that idea is going to lead to another success. And so I stopped viewing my imperfection as bad and as like, no, this is an act of surrender. And through my imperfection, I'm trusting God's taking me to where I need to be.
So you're like, I have ADD and my brain does work this way and I'm going to accept that.
Yeah.
And then
Instead of fight
imagine
it.
that God's going to use that to get me where I need to go instead of pretend that's not who I am.
Or instead of controlling it, and God's like, wait, no, well, where are you going? Like, you're doing all of the right things to your peers, but I need you over here. And the only way you're getting over here is by being authentic to who I created you to be. And it's a little bit of a messier path, but it's something way more beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's been a huge way. That's been a huge deterrent from getting back into it. Because it's like, oh man, I want to connect with these people right now, but I feel so drained. Creating would make me feel happy. It's like, what if I'm not actually supposed to have a great connection with these people?
Right.
Like, what if I'm forcing a connection that's going to lead into a friendship where I'm really not supposed to be in?
Totally.
And I think kind of like the multi-universe, where it's like you come to a crossroad and you're like, there's trust in God and there's control.
Yeah.
And the more you take control and your life goes to shit and you're blaming God, and he's like, no, like I actually wanted you to not have a great connection with this person because you don't need to be around this human being.
Right.
Or I didn't need this idea to work because if this idea work, it sends you down a whole path that you're not supposed to be at.
Right.
And so now I can look at substances even clearer and be like, do I want to force myself down a path where I'm not even sure I'm supposed to be?
Right.
Or do I want to trust God that I'm going to show up weak and just trust him that I'm ultimately going to end up where I need to be?
Love that.
I think that's you're highlighting grace, right? There's grace for how I'm designed and made, and a lot of people are trying to control all the circumstances, not perceiving that there's grace for their unique messiness or their unique life, right? And so I love that. Like, that's falling into grace is what that's like to me.
Yeah. I have one last question before we wrap up. In the beginning of this, you said, I'm the happiest I've ever been, or the most fulfilled, or something like
Is
that.
it because you're here with us?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay, good.
Happy as I could be.
But I wanted you to kind of compare like where your life was at practically when you were unhappy, and then why are you the happiest you've been now? And is that because your life circumstances are the same, or how has that journey been to get you from unfulfilled to the most fulfilled?
Could you rephrase the question for my brain? My brain is going everywhere. I'm like trying to find a way to connect it. I'm like, my brain, I need to.
No, so in the beginning you said that you're the most fulfilled that you've been in your life.
Currently now.
Also, you went through a season where you had the most wild success, but you were not fulfilled in that season. So how did you get from not fulfilled and success to where you're fulfilled now?
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. I think redefining what success looks like is a big one. I think a massive part of what success looked like to me was just a ton of attention, a ton of affirmation, a ton of love and acceptance. And I was using the wrong tools in which to access that. I think we all want to be connected. We all want to be understood, heard, loved, seen. And I think those are good things. But I think that a lot of us chase it through very shallow means, and then the reward is very shallow as well. And so I think when I made a ton of money and started getting a lot of attention, there was a part of me that was like, I should be happy because I'm getting it, but I wasn't getting it from authentic sources or real connection. To where right now, if you're in my life, like I know you're there because you enjoy aspects of me.
Yeah.
Right. I know it's because you love who I am as an individual. And 99% of the time, 95% of the time, I am the wealthiest person in a room that I'm hanging out with. But I'm no longer letting that be the reason that I'm accepting
disconnection or connection.
Whether they're accepting me or not accepting me. And I show up differently with those people. Yeah. So that's a big part. So I think redefining what success was for me. And for me, success looks like having the freedom to be able to spend time with who I want to spend time with and build the things that I want to build. Like, to me, it's a very simple version of success, but we have one right on this earth, right? And I think that having the freedom to be able to connect with family, with loved ones, with community, being able to champion others, have resources to give other people resources and help them build the things they want, is a lot more fulfilling. Serving, having a heart of servitude instead of what can I get, has felt more fulfilling. Dying to self and not being like it's all about me, and letting go of the idea that more attention or more finances is going to bring me any other level of happiness.
Right.
And I think Aristotle says the root of all suffering is expectation. And so I don't live in a place of expectancy as much as Christians might hate that. Because they're like always, it's like, no, I actually live in gratitude. So like when I wake up and if my brain starts going to like, oh man, I'd like to buy this GX 550, with these rims and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh my God, I have a Jeep Gladiator that as a 19-year-old I would have killed for.
Totally.
And I'm not over exaggerating. Not a day goes by where I walk through my house or get into my vehicles or I spend time with my wife or spend time with my friends where I don't sit there for a second and think, I'm so lucky to have them.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to live in this moment and be grateful that I have this.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, what's next? How am I going to get more love? What am I going to do here? And so, does that answer your question?
Yeah. And the other thing I'd add from watching it is I actually thought you got more fulfilled as you had less success. Yeah. I thought that was also something that because then I think your gratitude actually showed up in a whole new way. Yeah. Once you're like, I may not always be making this much money or doing this. Yeah. I actually saw the constriction in your life. When I say constriction, I'm like when we have seasons of feast and we have seasons where it's not as feasty.
Not as feasty. Yeah.
But I watched when you're like, oh, I need to get on a budget again and I actually saw those boundaries make you happier, make you more thankful, make you more alive. And I think that's important to notice. That's a truth that I don't think people talk about a lot, is that sometimes the hard seasons that feel like our lives are getting smaller actually is a way that our hearts get bigger.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. It's an interesting thought that gratitude is satiating. Actually, for that part of our being that is constantly hungry, that this idea of connecting with gratitude will satiate something inside of us and settle and bring us peace. And that's what I feel like is an aspect of what you stumbled into in your journey.
Yeah, because it's hard to be entitled when you're living in gratitude. And so the whole idea of expectancy creates misery, or it's like, if I am expecting to live in the lifestyle of private chartering jets and the Lambos and this, I'm miserable because I'm like, I expect this, I deserve this. But it's like, no, when you, like you said, when you live in gratitude, it is satiating. You're full because you're like, I have so much that I'm so grateful for. It could be a lot worse, and I am very grateful for this season. Yeah.
I remember when Abby and I were like, we had nothing. Like it was like just making it by. If you had one problem with the car, then you're screwed.
Check engine light comes on, ruins your day.
But I remember during that season, I got so intimate with gratitude, and I found myself feeling like I had won the lottery.
Wow.
At that point in my life, and I think that for me, if that's anything I could give away to people, is become intimately acquainted with gratitude. It's not just a cool principle. It actually has a shift it causes a shift inside of your entire being and causes you to see life through an entirely new lens. So
yeah.
And one last thing that I'll say from the outside looking in is your life got a lot more challenging. When you talked about when you got married and there's a lot happening with business and you're having to put your money into the business and everything became challenging. And a lot of us define that as bad, as a bad season. But humans are made for challenge.
Yeah.
We're made for adventure. We're made to overcome. We're made to have an obstacle that we're facing and to look at it and be like, how do I get through this?
Yeah, yeah.
And I have seen that like there's actually have way more purpose and way more mission and way more life drive than you did before that.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of us avoid hard seasons or are scared of things being different because we're afraid of challenge and we think it's going to make us unfulfilled instead of remembering that challenge is part of fulfillment.
Yeah, 100%. We could do a whole podcast on that.
Not challenge being part of fulfillment.
Yeah, because you see people who sell their businesses and make the $1 billion, they become more suicidal than they were when they were broke living in a 1-bedroom.
Yes.
Because they lost the purpose. And that's one thing that's like, I will never lose that again. And in any season of finance, it's like if you're not attached to a purpose, and that purpose has to be rooted in servitude, if you're not there, like you're going to be miserable.
Absolutely.
Because you're too boring to just focus your entire life onto you to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
I was playing a video game the other day, and I had accumulated enough money in the video game and enough like weaponry and stuff that
This is boring.
I was like, this game is pointless.
Yeah.
And I felt this deep dissatisfaction as I was playing it. And I was like, why did they make it so easy?
Yeah. Dude, that's real.
And honestly, I just found something in the system that I started hacking the system based on like, oh, if I do this, I can escalate the money in the game really fast.
Yep.
And it was this kind of almost a glitch style. So I'd glitch the game. And so
Dude, that's so real.
I was like, that is the human experience. If we glitch the game and it becomes too easy, like, all right, why am I here?
And it's very true that if your mission is just to feel good, you will lose.
Yeah.
But if you have a mission that involves servitude
And coming alive,
and
because
coming
that was
alive.
part of your story, you know, like learning how to come alive is such, it's critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, good chat. This is a good
Yeah.
chat. I knew it'd be inspiring. I know the people listening will feel hope about their lives. And
If you don't, you weren't listening close enough.
if you don't, shame on you. We shame you on this podcast. Just kidding. If you want to connect more with Bryant, you can follow him at Bryant Ellis.
Bryant
S.Ellis.
Bryant S. Ellis on Instagram.
I'm bad at that.
Yeah.
You can find
I have
his.
very boring Instagram where I just post my dogs and random shit I do.
I love that.
Yeah.
The dogs are cute though. It's worth a follow. And then you also are did the Adventure Challenge, and that is an amazing product. And
Yeah.
I love that what you guys do. So if you guys are interested and want to add more fun or spice or connection to your family, your love life, your personal life,
Yeah.
go to theadventurechallenge.com.
Yeah. And he has a book called Hello, My Name is Failure.
Yes. Which we didn't even talk about,
Yeah.
but that is
that's a whole
We had a
other
whole
story.
episode
a
Yeah,
lot
one
of
time,
his
so,
mindsets that you guys heard through this. You can actually, like, you'll listen to this and feel inspired. You'll want more. You can get more. You can buy his book.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, you can go to Justin Abbey, that's abi.com. If you have not already gone to YouTube and subscribed and hit the bell button, do it. Do it now.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
Do
Do
it
it. Do
now,
it.
or you're not welcome to come back.
Oh, that's not true.
All right.
We're
all
not
right.
controllers here.
All right, you can come back, but you should really do that. Rate, review, subscribe, share. There it is. We're going away now. Bye.